A few years ago, I was visiting this Hopi family up in the Mesa in Arizona. And Hopis are a wonderful people. Hopi means people of peace. And they've kept their spiritual traditions alive in all of them. So I was visiting this family, and their young son, he was around 12 years old, was showing me and my friend around. And it was clear that everything on this land was sacred, that he could see everything was sacred. Not just the forms, but he could see beyond the forms into the spirit of everything. You know, it was all sacred. We drank from a sacred spring and saw all these different sacred sites. And on our way out, as we were leaving, there were these shards of pottery, old pottery, that were in the ground. And one piece was particularly beautiful, and my friend picked it up. And she asked, would it be okay to take this with her? Would it be okay to take this? And he said, you can take anything from the land, but you have to leave something behind of value. And so she took off her earrings and left her earrings there and took this shard of pottery with her. And this really impressed me, because I had thought that I had been living a fairly meticulous life in terms of nature, because I love nature. I was an artist and a nature photographer, and I would spend a lot of time. This is back in the day when we were doing black and white photography, and role models were Minor White particularly, and Edward Weston and Paul Caponegro. And one of the things that we were learning to do was to be able to see the formless through form. And when we saw the formless through form, then we would make the picture, then we would take the photograph. And somehow people could see the formless in the photograph as well, and they were really touched by it. It just brought this extra beauty to it. It was a wonderful practice. And I did this in my early 20s, and it was before I started a formal Zen practice, but it was a wonderful lead up into Zen practice to spend so much devoted time, hours and hours, looking at one object until we could see the formless in it, and how things combined together in this great mystery that was there, and then make a photograph, and that other people could actually see this as well. It was a wonderful practice to do. So I thought that because I love nature so much and saw this sacredness of it, this holiness in it, when I would spend enough time there, this holiness would just emerge, this sacredness would just emerge. That was so impressive to me, and I loved it so much. So I thought I was living a fairly meticulous life in terms of this, but when this young Hopi boy said, you need to leave something behind of value if you're going to take anything from the earth, I realized that I was taking photographs, not giving. I was taking photographs. This was this self-centered I, me, mine focus, even though I loved the earth and I loved nature, and it had given me so much, and I realized I was receiving so much from it. I was taking, not giving. And this meeting this young Hopi boy, it just awakened this in me. I realized that I hadn't been living in as meticulous as a way as I could. I wasn't aware of this. You know, I was taking photographs, not giving. We even say that I'm taking a photograph. So life doesn't do this. Reality doesn't do this. It's always giving. It receives by giving. Our true nature is always giving. It's never taking. It's always giving. It receives by giving, not by taking. So this really woke me up to this, that, you know, what I thought I had been living as a meticulous life, I really wasn't. And it's wonderful to be woken up in this way, to see, you know, I could do better. I could do better. I thought I was living in this very meticulous way, but I wasn't. I could live in a more meticulous way. When Thich Nhat Hanh met Thomas Merton is a Trappist monk and a Christian mystic, and when he met Thich Nhat Hanh, what he said was, I could see that Thich Nhat Hanh was a true monk, a true holy person, by the way he opened and shut a door. Isn't that something? By the way he opened and shut a door. Because Thich Nhat Hanh lived in a very meticulous way. This was his Zen training, to live in a very meticulous way. And he did that beginning when he was 16 years old, when he entered and became a Zen monk. His teacher was very thorough about teaching him in every moment of daily life to live in a meticulous way. So this is often what he taught us, as much by his example as what he used in words, but he did teach us a lot in words as well. But his example was really wonderful. He was living a meticulous life in everything that he did, in every breath that he took, in every step that he walked. And you can do that too. Whatever you're doing now, you can live in a more meticulous way than you're doing now. We all can. Do we take our breath for granted? Our breathing for granted? This is wonderful. We're breathing. At some point, the body won't be able to do this anymore. And now it can. Taking it for granted is just a way of limiting our life and reducing our happiness and our gratitude. If you can walk now, do you take your steps for granted? Do you take walking for granted? Or do you realize with great appreciation and love and gratitude that now you can walk? Because you may not always be able to, but now you can. In this moment, you can walk. How wonderful. You know, when I was at the Hopi land, it was clear that everything was sacred there, but everything is sacred everywhere. In your room right now, this is sacred. If you think that Walmart's is less sacred than a monastery or a temple or an ashram, you don't see what Walmart's is. Every place is sacred. Every inch of ground is sacred. There is nothing in existence that is not sacred, that is not this holy, sacred ground. And every breath you take is sacred. Every step you take is holy. To realize this is living in a meticulous way. If we realize this, we will open and shut a door in a meticulous way, with gratitude, with honor, with realizing the sacredness of that simple act. I hope this can inspire you to look at your own life and see with mindfulness and awareness where you could be more sacred, where you might be taking something for granted that would give you great joy and gratitude if you didn't, if you realize the sacredness of it. Something as simple as your breathing, your heart beating, every step that you take. May this inspire you to do this, my friend.